Hey friends, Barkey Dog here, back with another movie review. This time we're looking at a product of the angst of the 1970s. A movie that gazes into the crystal ball of what 1998 would look like if things kept on the way they were going. That's right, we're looking at Americathon, an absurdist comedy from 1979. Americathon predicts a future where there's no more oil or gasoline, a real concern at the time this movie was made. See, back in the 1970s, there was an energy crisis. Basically, Iran and OPEC decided to put the screws to America and connived to raise prices and limit output. This hit America especially hard since gas had been cheap and everyone was driving a gas-guzzling ocean liner on wheels. Then prices soared. There were long lines at the pump, rationing, and other limits on the amount of gas you could buy, and that was just fuel for cars. Some of the after effects of this energy crisis are still with us today. Fuel-efficient, compact cars became a standard thing. The 55-mile-per-hour speed limit isn't a random number. It was calculated as the perfect speed limit to allow for moderately fast travel that at the same time would not waste fuel. Motorists were encouraged to drive 55, the double nickel, in a bid to save gas. Truckers hated it. It's still a thing today. I think my favorite slogan they came up with was, "Don't be fuelish!" It was to remind people not to waste gas or electricity. Anyway, getting back to the movie, the story goes like this. After running out of petroleum, America goes into debt. How far into debt? 400 billion smackers worth. And the only guy with enough dough to loan the country that much money is a Native American chief. Well, now he wants his money back, so the country has 30 days until he forecloses on America. After selling off national monuments and things, the dopey New Age president and his cabinet come up with a plan to get the rest of the money they need, namely holding a 30-day-long campaign they dub Americathon, where the American people would donate their gold to save the country. For his part, the chief doesn't actually want to own America. Enter the villains of the piece, a combined Arab-Israeli state which put aside their differences, teamed up, and has taken over half the world. They offer to buy the chief out when America defaults on the loan. One member of the president's cabinet is in cahoots with the bad guys and tries to sabotage the Americathon at every turn. This includes making sure most of the entertainment shown during the Americathon is lousy. The Americathon is being produced by our hero, this guy. He's an honest schmuck, trying his best to make it all work. Can the country come together and save itself from financial ruin and a hostile takeover? Will the Americathon succeed or fail? Well, I'm not going to tell you. You have to watch the movie. Well, this movie has a good cast with the great John Ritter as the president, and the also great Harvey Korman as the MC of the Americathon. He plays a washed-up actor desperate to make a comeback. Fred Willard plays the traitor trying to undermine the Americathon, and George Carlin narrates the story, playing a future version of the producer. Chief Dan George is the Native American chief calling him Malone. He was in a lot of westerns, as well as playing a recurring role on the long-running Canadian TV series, The Beachcombers. Richard Stahl is the president's assistant. He played several walk-on roles on the Mary Tyler Moore Show, including Chuckles the Clown. The president's ditzy mistress and love interest for the producer is Nancy Morgan, John Ritter's wife in real life. The movie also has several familiar faces popping up in cameo roles. Tommy Lasorda plays a ringside commentator for one of the acts, a mother-son boxing match. Said boxing match features Jay Leno. Hollywood Squares host Peter Marshall makes an appearance, as do singers Elvis Costello and Meatloaf. Meatloaf really reminded me of Chris Farley here. You could totally see Farley in this part. The tragic Playboy centerfold Dorothy Stratton cameos. She wears a Playboy bunny outfit here. I think my favorite surprise is this chick. You know who that is? That's right. Sybil Shepherd! Sybil Shepherd! The soundtrack for this is fun too, featuring both Elvis Costello and a light, bouncy theme song by the Beach Boys. It's a great little song. But for all that, Americathon is one of those pictures that's kinda crappy. I liked some of the ideas here, such as people making cars into homes, since there was no more gas and it's the best use for the cars. And the idea that people jog everywhere or commute using bicycles or skateboards. And the one thing people refuse to give up was television. That sounds like America, all right. Unfortunately, Americathon is not as funny as it wants to be, or as it needs to be. It reminded me, in some ways, of Rabbit Test, another absurdist comedy with a lot of familiar faces that came out just the year before, in 1978. Although not nearly as bad as Rabbit Test, Americathon just isn't a great picture. Which is a shame, given that it had a lot going for it. An interesting premise, the good foundation, a great cast, the soundtrack, but things just never came together in the way that would make this movie one for the ages. It never quite reached the higher level of looniness that would have made the picture work. So it winds up being very dated, and it's going to be one of those movies you like because you like absurdist comedy or 70s comedies, if that's your thing, or one you really hate because it comes off as a bit flat, even boring. I wanted to give this one 2 paws for the premise and the cast, but in good conscience, I could only give it 1 3/4 paws. It's dated, but that can still be fun, and you may recognize some of the faces. Plus, Harvey Korman is wonderful, as is John Ritter, but in spite of that, the movie really never fully launches. Americathon is available on VHS, DVD, and digitally from Amazon Prime. Well, that's all I have for you this time. I'll be back soon with another video. In the meantime, you take care of yourselves, okay? And I'll see you in the next one.